Chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to stay in the country of Moab with his wife and his 2 sons. And the man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, and his 2 sons were called Mahlon and Chilion and Ephrates of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and stayed there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they married Moabite women. One was named Orpah, the other was Ruth, and they lived there about 10 years. And both Mahlon and Chilion also died, for the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that God had visited his people in giving them bread. So she left where she'd been living with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they set off to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's house. God will deal kindly with you, as you have with your husbands and with me. God grant that you may each find rest back with your family." Then she kissed them, and they all cried. And they told her, "No, we will come with you back to your people." And Naomi said, "Turn again, my daughters. Why would you want to come with me? I'm not going to be able to provide you with any more husbands, am I? Turn again, my daughters, back to your folk. Look, I am too old to find another husband. Even if there was a hope of that, it's unlikely I would also be having any more sons. And if I did, would you wait around for them to grow up? Would you still be here for them to be your husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me so much for your sakes that the hand of God is gone out against me." And they all cried again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law and left, but Ruth stuck with her. And she said, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, and you should go after her." And Ruth said, "Don't ask me to leave you or to stop following you, for wherever you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people should be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, there I will die, and there I will be buried. God do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." When she saw that she was unwaveringly intent on going with her, she gave up trying to persuade her. So the 2 of them set off and arrived in Bethlehem. And so it came to pass, when they got there, that all the city was moved about them, and they said, "Is this Naomi?" And she told them, "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and God brought me home again empty. So why call me Naomi, seeing God has testified against me and afflicted me?" So Naomi returned with her daughter-in-law, Ruth the Moabite, from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest.
Chapter 2. Naomi had a relative of her husband Elimelech's family, a mighty man of wealth called Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field now and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace." And she replied, "Go, my daughter." And she went off and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And it so happened that she ended up on a part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was Elimelech's relative. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, "God be with you." And they answered him, "God bless you." Then Boaz asked his servant that was watching over the reapers, "Whose damsel is this?" And the servant answered, "It is the Moabite damsel that came with Naomi from the country of Moab." And she said, "I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came, and she has carried on all day since this morning, that she was barely in the house. Then said Boaz to Ruth, "Didn't you hear, my daughter? Don't go to glean in any other field, but stay here alongside my maidens. Let your eyes be on the field that they reap, and go after them. I have warned the young men that they shall not touch you. And when you get thirsty, go to the vessels and drink from what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said to him, "Why have I found grace in your eyes that you should take notice of me, seeing I am a stranger?" And Boaz answered her, "I've been informed about everything you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and mother and your birthland and come to a people which you didn't know before. God recompense your work and a full reward to be given to you of God of Israel, under whose wing you have come to trust." Then she said, "Let me find favour in your eyes, my lord, because you've comforted me and because you've been friendly towards me, even though I am not like your other handmaidens." And Boaz said to her, "At mealtime, come over here and eat the bread and dip your morsel in the vinegar." And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she ate and was satisfied and left. And when she got up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and don't reproach her. And also let some of the handfuls fall on purpose for her, and leave them so she can glean them, and don't rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening, and beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it to the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she had brought forth, and gave her what she had left over after that she had enough. And her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean today? Bless whoever it was that took notice of you." And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, "The man's name is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of God, who hasn't forgotten his kindness to the living and to the dead." And Naomi said unto her, "The man is related to us, one of our next kinsmen." And Ruth the Moabitess said, "He said to me, you should stick by my young men until they have finished all my harvest." And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his maidens, that you don't end up in any other field." So she stuck with the maidens of Boaz to glean until the end of the barley harvest and wheat harvest, and lodged with her mother-in-law.
Chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said, "My daughter, should I look for rest for you, so things will be good for you? And now, is not Boaz our relative? You were with his maidens, weren't you? Look, he's winnowing barley tonight in the threshing floor. So get washed and cleaned up, put on a bit of perfume and put on your best dress, and get yourself down to the floor, but don't let on to him who you are until after he's finished eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lies down, that you'll make a note of his spot, and you'll go in and uncover his feet and lay down, and he will tell you what you shall do." And she replied, "I will do everything you've told me to do." And she went down to the floor and followed all her mother-in-law's advice. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn, and she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and he turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your handmaid. So spread your skirt over your handmaid, for we are kinsmen." And he said, "You are blessed of God, my daughter, for you've shown more kindness lately than before, inasmuch as you haven't followed young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to you all that you need, for the whole city of my people know that you are a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am your close relative. However, there is a kinsman nearer than I. Stay tonight, and in the morning, if he performs to you the part of a kinsman well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he doesn't do the part of a kinsman, then I will do the part of a kinsman to you. As God lives, lie down until the morning." And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she arose before anything could happen between them. And he said, "Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor." Also, he said, "Bring your veil and hold it out." And when she held it, he measured out 6 measures of barley, and he laid it on her, and she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "Who are you, my daughter?" And she told her everything. And she said, He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said to me, don't go empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Then she said, sit tight, my daughter, until you know how things will play out, for the man will not be in rest until he has finished the thing this day.
Chapter 4. Then Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spoke came by. So he said to him, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit yourselves down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, who come again out of the country of Moab, selling a parcel of land, which our brother Elimelech's, and I thought to advertise you, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people, if thou want to redeem it. But if you don't redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, because there's no one else besides you to redeem it, and I am after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, the day you buy the field of the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it of Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, in that case, I can't redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. So you should redeem it, because I can't. Now this was the way back in the day in Israel, when it came to redeeming and concerning changing. For to conform all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbour, and this was testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for yourself. So he took off his shoe. And Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, you are witnesses today that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, I have purchased Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead not be cut off from among his brothers, and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today. And all the people that were there in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. God makes the woman that has come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, who built up the house of Israel. And you do worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let you be the house like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, of seed which God shall give you of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when they got together, God gave her conception, and so she bore a son. And the woman said to Naomi, blessed be God, who has not left you this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be a restorer of life for you, and a nourisher of your dotage, for your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better than your 7 sons to you, has borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid him in her bosom and nursed him. And the women, her neighbours, gave him a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they called him Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. And now these are the generations of Peretz. Peretz beget Hezron, and Hezron beget Ram, and Ram beget Amminadab, and Amminadab beget Nashon, and Nashon beget Salmon, and Salmon beget Boaz, and Boaz beget Obed, and Obed beget Yesiah, and Yesiah beget David.